You know, I often think about it, that how can America lecture us when you're going after the Venezuelans, begging them for oil? You were sanctioning Venezuela till 2 months back, telling the whole world how we must all come together with you. And now you're going to the Venezuelans, sending emissaries. So you're buying Venezuelan oil. How are the Americans to tell us to be careful about buying Russian oil?
The United States doesn't want to buy Venezuelan oil. It's not hypocrisy, it's priorities. And the priority right now is that a major nuclear-armed power has run roughshod over a norm that we thought was reasonably solid in the modern era, which is that you don't invade a neighboring country for acquisition of territory or to dominate it on a permanent basis. The Indian government needs to decide, as do others around the world, how much are they willing to pay to make it costly for Russia to violate the most basic norms of sovereignty in the international system. It strikes me as a very troubling statement for India or for any other government to make, that we are going to continue to deal in a business as usual way with a country that poses such a frontal threat to an order that is also one dear to India's own interests. And so I don't think the United States is lecturing India. I think the United States is asking India, what position are you going to take on this for your own interests?
Why do you call on Saudi Arabia for oil then, Raymond? Why haven't you stopped calling Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates for oil? They have been bombing Yemen, killing people there. 400,000 children at risk of dying of malnutrition because of the bombing of Yemen. Where was your morality then? Is that the right side of history? Is that the right side of history? An Indian is asking you tonight. An Indian is asking you tonight. Were you on the right side of history then?
No, that's not the right side of the history. But the question is,
when it suits you, you're not on the right side.
Oh, no, can I just make a statement?
The United States is on the right side of history.
In Ukraine, you're on the right side, but in the context of Saudi Arabia, you choose to be on the wrong side, because the wrong side at that point of time is also in the direction of your own self-interest.
No, we don't just choose to be on the wrong side. We've been trying to stop that war. We've been trying to get Saudi Arabia. As you well know, there are many people in the United States who want to take harsher measures against it. And there will be. But the question is not what you're going to do about Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, let me counter. In 2017, Saudi Arabia had a $110 billion defense deal with the United States. Most of the weapon systems that Saudi Arabia is using in Yemen have been procured from the United States. And what is happening in Ukraine is not a war of independence for Ukraine. This war is about whether Ukraine will be part of NATO or not. All that America needs is to give a pledge to the world that Ukraine for eternity will remain neutral. But America will not do that. They have used Ukraine as a dispensable pawn, left it in the lurch to fight for itself. And this is why I'm reminded of what Henry Kissinger, one of the greatest diplomats of the United States, once stated, that to be an enemy of America can be dangerous, but to be its friend is sometimes fatal.
Well, fact is, John, you're going to Venezuela. You need to replace 672,000 barrels per day. The Biden government has opened up massive talks with Venezuela to buy oil, despite Venezuela abstaining or not voting on the UN resolutions condemning the Russian invasion. And John, I just want to tell you this. In 2019, at that time, John Bolton, he was on my program day before yesterday, was NSA. And he said, we will not forget those who are doing business with Venezuela. They will be punished. Nations and companies that support Maduro will not be forgotten and will be punished. Well, today, America is wooing Maduro. This to you, and I know this might hurt you and hurt some Americans, but I'm going to say this tonight. You know, America even compromised on 9/11. So many of your citizens died in 9/11. And the fact is, just to maintain a smooth flow of Saudi oil, right? the US prevented American citizens, your own citizens, were stopped from seeking damages from the Saudi government for the 9/11 attacks using the 1976 Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. You stopped your own citizens from seeking justice for 9/11 because you wanted the oil. Because you wanted the oil.
We are
and now you're telling India that we should
laws.
not be taking oil from the Russians.
Hold on. We're a nation of laws. And our law prevented those lawsuits. It's as simple as that.
No.
I will reiterate. I will reiterate. We are telling people to cut back on the oil if they cannot go off it completely. And we tell India the same thing. We're not telling you eliminate 100% overnight. But you're not doing anything.
We're doing a lot. We are giving more humanitarian assistance to Ukraine than America is. And the Ukrainians are very...
I don't know about that.
We're not giving them weapons. We're giving them medicines, food, humanitarian assistance at every level.
Excuse me.
You're weaponizing them.
$1 billion worth? You are exaggerating. We've just approved $1 billion worth. You haven't given them $1 billion. It's like the Chinese who say, well, we're helping them out, and they've given them $65,000. Arnab, you're very good, but don't exaggerate.
I'm not exaggerating a thing. I have not even told you what the CIA did in 1953 in Iran, when you twice attempted to destabilize the government of Iran and replace the prime minister just because he had attempted to nationalize the Iranian oil industry. I'm telling you the facts. This should be included in textbooks for every child in America to read so that the mistakes are not repeated for future generations.
The question really is not what happened historically. You know, this whole thing about, well, two wrongs somehow make a right. If the United States did something wrong in the past, then India is entitled to do something wrong now. The question is, what is India's position and what is India going to contribute in the face of the present situation? If India makes the decision that it's just fine for Russia to try to take over its neighbor and to recreate the Russian Empire and do nothing about it, well, that's India's decision.
I think
But if, on the other hand, India wants to be a world power and wants to have influence in the world, then it has to decide what's in its best interest. And I think that means that it has to act in accordance with its own values rather than just saying, well, I'm going to do what's good for me today and the heck with the rest of it. I don't believe that's the way in which India was founded. I don't think that's what's in your constitution. I don't think that's what your stand has been on human rights. And so you got to decide now, it seems to me, what you're going to do. If you're not going to do something about oil, what are you going to do? Or are you just going to sit and say, well, it's all right?
No, 1 minute. Raymond, I want General Katoch to respond to you. You know, the problem with all these our fantastic American panelists is they love drawing me in, and I get tempted and I get drawn into the debate. And I don't know when I switch from being an anchor to a panelist. But I will respond to you, Raymond, because I do care for you. And I just wanted to correct you. You're saying if India wants to be a world power, well, I'd like to tell you we are already a world power. And what is a world power if not one of the world's largest economies, one of the world's largest militaries, one of the greatest strategic depths? We are a world power. That's point number one. So not in the future tense, but in the present continuous tense, my response to you is that. And my second point is, Raymond, and General Katoch will respond to you, this is your proxy war. It's not, we are not doing a proxy war. You're doing a proxy war through the Ukrainians. I want General Katoch to make that point clear. Don't draw us in.
It's not a proxy war.
Thank you, Arnab. You see, when Mr. Raymond, you talk about India standing aside, I want to make it very clear, India is not standing aside. We have taken a very balanced stand that we want peace in Ukraine. Right? We want both Russia and NATO and the United States to back off and let these two countries sort out their problems on their own. That is possible. But it can only be done if America and NATO back off. The weapons which you are selling to Ukraine will prolong the war, and it will only lead to the destruction, the complete destruction of Ukraine.
I've not even told you what the CIA did in 1953 in Iran, when he twice attempted to destabilize the government of Iran and replace the prime minister just because he had attempted to nationalize the Iranian oil industry. I'm telling you the facts. This should be included in textbooks for every child in America to read so that the mistakes are not repeated for future generations.